Indiana, of course, taking on the Illini next tomorrow night. It's Champaign, Illinois. A road game we talked about. Just getting a road win is going to be really, really important for this team. Illinois is a team that had taken a dip, but they kind of on the rebound. So it's not going to. There's no easy stops, period. But definitely not an easy stop for this Indiana team, and they're going to have to continue to play with the chip that they seem to play with against Wisconsin. Of course, not only was Wisconsin, like you said, easier to defend, but they were without their best player as well.
Right.
So this is going to be a little bit different of a challenge.
Yeah. Illinois, before the year, I think some people were picking them to be the most likely team to beat Indiana to win the Big Ten. And then looked like Underwood. I don't know if you watched some of the games. The vibe wasn't good in that team. He was screaming at them a lot in huddles. And one of their top recruits, Sky Clark, left. I don't think they've lost a game since he left.
That's kind of, someone called that addition by subtraction, and I forget who that was.
Yeah. He's a guy that changed high schools. He's a guy who moved from California to Tennessee. He's a guy who initially committed to Kentucky and then decommitted. I think he's one of those guys, it's all about Sky. And
it's not a good look.
The skies got brighter in Illinois when he left. And so Shannon's their guy, and the other guy from Baylor, what's his name? Meyer,
yep.
Yeah. Matchup problem. That's a small forward position. Is that Miller Kopp? That's a tough matchup. Is it going to be Geronimo? Who's it going to be? You can't. Those are both guys who are capable of going off and having big games. And we all know that Kofi gave Trace Jackson Davis a lot of trouble. He's not there anymore. But this other kid, what's his name? He's got the same first name and last name. The big guy.
Day Danger.
Yeah, he's a guy who has a big body and is like a miniature Kofi. And that's a guy that I saw he had 20 and 7 against Michigan State. He came back with 11 against Minnesota. He's a muscle guy, and Trace has to not let that guy get established. So that's how are they going to guard Shannon and Meyer will be my big questions.
Well, and we've talked about earlier this week throughout the show that the key might be from the weekend game against Wisconsin, Jordan Geronimo. Like a few games ago, especially in that Iowa game, he just looked lost on the floor, especially offensively, made some big-time turnovers. Made some corrections, got a double-double. Mike Woodson said he kind of challenged him a little bit. I mean, to me, if that guy figures it out and plays with confidence, he's a completely different player. And maybe you're not going to completely offset the absence of Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson, but I feel like they can take a big step forward if he can continue to play like he did against Wisconsin, which is a tall task against other teams that are going to push tempo. But if he can have that same sort of success, I feel like Indiana's season can turn around quickly.
My view on Jordan Geronimo is, he's not a complete basketball player because he's not a great ball handler. He's not a great passer, and he's not a great shooter. I mean, his skills should be defending, rebounding, and hustling. Getting back on defense, getting out on the break, so Hood Schifino can find him for baskets in transition. Concentrate on those things and contribute in those ways. To me, he becomes somebody that's causes problems for Indiana when he tries to do things he's not good at, dribbling in traffic. They give him those 3-point shots because, they do with Race Thompson. That's what they want him to shoot, and he's not a good 3-point shooter. He hasn't been the whole time he's been at IU. He'll make one occasionally, and people get excited about it, but shouldn't be what he's shooting. So if he can concentrate on defense, rebounding, and running the court, he can be a plus for Indiana, in my opinion.
Yeah, and who steps up this game tomorrow night, whether it's Jordan Geronimo or Tamar Bates, even Trey Galloway, those guys have got to look to score more like Jordan did the other night. And I've said this all week because it cannot be Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis. They're not going to have great games every game, although they're going to play well most of the time. There's going to be a time where, for whatever reason, they're just not on, and one or two of those guys are going to have to step up for Indiana to win. And I think Illinois is going to be a perfect example of finding out, because it's a road game, who is that guy? Can Jordan Geronimo continue to be somewhat consistent in his play? Like you talked about it, you look just lost not long ago. Robbie Hummel said the same thing, that he makes a lot of mistakes and at times just looks completely lost. Well, he didn't look lost against Wisconsin. Why was there just a sudden change, and can he maintain that? And why can't the rest of the team pick up with that?
The thing that I don't understand is that when I look at Miller Kopp, he really has one skill that should earn him time on the floor, and that's the ability to shoot the ball. Yet in Indiana's last 4 games, he's taken a total of, 3, 5, 7, 10 shots. 10 shots in the last 4 games. Hadn't taken more than 3 shots in any of those games. I don't understand why they don't do more things to get him shots. I mean, why is he playing? He's not playing to defend. He's not playing because he's a great passer. He's not playing because he's a great driver. He plays because he's a shooter, but he's a shooter that gets 2 or 3 shots a game. It doesn't make any sense to me.
See, we've had this debate too, and Jim and I have differing viewpoints. I don't think they run enough for him, because he's not a guy that you're going to give him the ball and he's going to be able to create his own shot. That's not his role. He's going to come off of a screen. He's going to try to get open, but I don't see them run anything for him. And I haven't watched it quite as closely. I'm going to this game because it was just pointed out this week, and we got into that, disagreement. But when I watch them, first of all, the goal of the offense is to get the ball to Trace Jackson Davis. And then after that, I've said it, I sound like a broken record. I don't know what plan B, C, D is. But the other point is, like you said, if you're going to have a shooter on the floor, then give him the opportunity to shoot 7, 8 times a game, at least.
Or run things for him. Howie just asked the question a while ago, did we hear Whitson's comments in the radio show last night? And what he basically said was, because people asked this question, he says that the people aren't leaving him. They're not going to leave him. You have to run screens or you have to run actions for him to get him shots. I'll show my age here, but Steve Green from Silver Creek, who was one of Knight's early players, Scott May, even though he's a National Player of the Year, Ted Kitchell, none of those guys were great athletes, but Knight ran things different.
Steve Alford. Did anybody run harder than Steve Alford to get a shot?
Get him shots. Otherwise, my son tweeted out something during the game Sunday that I believe Miller Kopp played like 11 minutes in the first half, had no shots, no rebounds, no assists, no steals, no turnovers. It was 11 trillion was his stat line. It's like, you can't have guys like that on the floor. I mean, I don't get it.
29 minutes and just basically zeros. It took 2 shots in the game, I think.
At the very end, he had the one that was a little bit rushed and it went in and out, and then he finally made their only 3 in that game.
And the game was already in hand by that point. They were up by 15 or better, I think, at that time. So, yeah, I think he's partly to blame too. If you want the ball, work to get the ball. Now they have to work to get shots for you as well, but he doesn't move. He's very stagnant and
sounds like he's
around.
Told though, like he's told to go stand in the corner, and the perimeter guys are going to drive, and when the double comes or when the double comes off Trace, then you'll be open for the shot. Well, that ain't working. So if it's not working, come up with plan B.
And
because
why?
We have seen Miller Kopp. I'm not saying he should even be a 10 or 12 points per game guy, but he should be a 7 to 8 points per game guy who's getting at least 3 or 4 shots from distance every game, and he should
average 4 to 5 shots a game.
He's shooting the high 40% on threes. I think he is.
See, this is and that's where
5.1%.
And that's where that's where Jim and I think differ, because I'm with you, Rick. Like, where's he gonna run? I don't like. It's not like they're setting up plays.
He's not going to shake anybody on his own.
No, exactly.
And he doesn't. As good as he is, he doesn't have the quickest release in the world. We watch him, like when he gets the ball, if he's not really comfortable but he's got an open look, he is not going to shoot it. So He needs a clean look. So I don't know. They need to sit the coaching staff together. I mean, Randy Whitman played at IU. He helps Mike Woodson coach the team. He got a lot of perimeter shots. He was quicker than Miller Kopp, but he could help come up with some sets to get this guy some shots. Because when he makes shots, that opens up stuff for TJD. That opens up stuff for guys driving the lane. To me, you can tell it's a head scratcher.